All right. So here we are. This is the feature photographer of the week. I am with Zach Dalin. My name is Dustin Lucas. I am the co-owner of Evolve Edits. My wife and I purchased Evolve from Sal Sincata a little over 2 years ago, and I have been working here for, well over a decade. They haven't gotten rid of me yet. And I'm here to talk about Zach Dalin's business and learn a little bit more about his studio. Zach, take it on.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your studio, where you're based, primarily what kind of shoots that you do.
Sure. I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri, and I primarily focus on weddings, events, and recently getting more into kind of the corporate commercial side with headshots and work with small business owners.
Okay. Absolutely. How long have you been in business, photographer, all the above?
Sure. Been in business. Guess I started when it was kind of part-time as kind of like a side hustle. That was in 2013 when that started. And in 2018, I took that full-time.
Okay. That's yeah, I remember your brief history was news media, KMOV, working there and, going full time. It was interesting working together prior to that and seeing that transition with you. And then you went, self-employed is always that weird thing. You became a solopreneur, right? And seeing that transition, and it's been, it sounds like massively fruitful, different.
Yeah.
Freedom comes with a different level of stress for sure.
It does.
But
it was a really cool transition to go from working in the news media business and kind of doing my thing on the side, learning my craft, learning as I go, but really kind of growing something on the side to see if it could lead to something, to see if it could be something, that could take me full time and that could actually be a fulfilling career. And then it kind of transitioned to the point in 2018 where I was like, all right, it definitely can work and it's time to make that switch. So I made that switch over and, haven't had second thoughts. I mean, it's been...
For sure. Well, in the kind of in today's world, 2025, we're already into March. Holy cow.
Yeah.
What types of sessions have really kind of exploded for you and kind of where are you gravitating towards? You mentioned corporate, working with small businesses. Is that your primary focus right now?
I think that's definitely a big focus right now is my corporate and my small business clients. I mean, I think wedding and event is always going to be a very big part of my company. It's always going to be kind of the safety net that I use to kind of flow the whole year and have kind of stability throughout the year. So wedding and events, that's not going anywhere for me. It's definitely a big piece of it. But I think what's really becoming really popular lately is, headshots in my corporate commercial clients. So whether it's doctors, lawyers, small businesses, starting with headshots, and that typically, springboards into, social content, into videos for social, into videos for web. It springboards from there. But I think headshots has been a great way to kind of get into that corporate commercial clientele and to kind of do more work with small businesses. So that's been a very nice growing part of the business for me lately.
And photo and video has been a necessity with those clients. Like you can't do one or the other. You have to provide both.
You have to provide both. These clients want both. They need content for their socials. They need content for their website. They need, something as simple as, they need little thumbnails in their Outlook, little profile pictures in Outlook for all their employees.
Okay.
So, it's a wide gamut of services that I can provide to these commercial clients, but that's definitely been a really fast-paced growing side of the business for me is my commercial line.
Okay. Well, talking about your business, and give me a little brief history of what it was like, maybe prior to outsourcing editing and marketing and all these other parts of your business. As you're running your business, you're the, only photographer, running all these events. What does that history and transition kind of look for you where you started outsourcing to different teams?
I think early on, I really, figured out early on that outsourcing was a requirement, really. I mean, you can't do everything yourself. And I learned that early on. from mentors that I've had. And it became apparent very early on that if I wanted to take this full time and if I wanted this to actually scale and grow, there's no possible way you could do that as one person, as a solo person. It's not reasonable. It's not feasible. It's not possible. So, I think realizing early on that, it's important to have your hand in different parts of the business, but it's also important to let go of certain things and grow a team that can offload some of that. Because I think, ultimately, if you're not photographing, you're not shooting, and, you're stuck behind a computer all day, you're not making money. You're not moving on to new clients. You're just getting stuck in the business. So I think early on, that was really kind of brought to my attention of, hey, you got to figure out the tasks that you don't need to be actually physically doing. Outsource it, get rid of it, let a team that specializes in that, let them handle that. And I think that was, once I realized that, it was just an eye opener. It was, wow, I don't need to be doing all these tasks, and I can let these other people do it. And frankly, they can do it at a better level, at a better job than I could do it at. So it was a win-win, from a lot of directions.
Yeah, I love that idea of, you should be spending 80% of your time working on your business.
That's right.
The more you work on it, the more you have a feeder for clients, or you're watching the financials, you're watching, how much you're spending versus how much you're making, like all that stuff.
Yep.
And so you put your card and it's declined, and you're like, oh shit, it's like all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But I think that's the same for even myself, right? Like, running a business. If you're stuck sitting down doing all these meticulous tasks versus looking at it, from a high level, I think it always works. That 80-20 rule always plays, working on the business versus working in.
Exactly.
But those shifts do have, happen when you're in full season and you're like, look, I got to turn this thing around, or clients are reaching out. There's going to be times where you're going to be head down production. And the goal would be head down production means you have too many shoots and you're really stretching yourself thin. You have too many sales sessions, which brings up, a question for me. You're doing in-person sales or some level of sales with your clients.
Correct.
How have you gone from a photographer to this digital world to selling your pictures? How do you make money doing that? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it depends on the type of work, but yeah, sales and in-person sales, it's a very big part of what I do. So obviously on the corporate commercial side, you're not really selling to them. They just want those final digital files, and you're building that into the final price to make that worth your time. But I think on the weddings, the events, the engagements, the families, the seniors, all of that type of work, IPS and doing sales with those clients, it's absolutely a huge part of my business. I think providing that digital file, that digital product is a part of it. And we're definitely offering the digital product, but I think offering the physical product is the way to really make a living. I mean, you can only charge so much for digital files, but when you become a full service studio and you can provide high-end Italian albums, Italian leather albums, and you can provide acrylic prints, metal prints, canvas, all these really, beautiful products, you're able to charge a lot more for that service, and you're able to really kind of bridge the gap of, okay, I can only make X amount of dollars with digitals, but okay, you add in all these products, and okay, now this is actually, a profitable line of business when you're able to offer this. And it's offering the client a better level of service, because at the end of the day, there's sites like, Shutterfly and all these different online platforms. They're going to be buying these products somewhere. It's just a matter of, do you want that money, or do you want to give the money to someone else? Well, I would like to make that money. I don't want them to go to Shutterfly. I want to make that money. So I think it's important that you also realize that they're going to spend the money somewhere. Why not be the person they spend it with?
Yeah, I think sales is a large conversation for a lot of studios. I mean, to be 100% transparent, I would say 20 to 30% of our clients are doing in-person, kind of luxury client experience sales and products. There's a good percentage in the middle that kind of offloads to what I'd call online sales. I don't know if there's a better term for it, but it's kind of like let Pick Time sell, and Pick Time's cutting them a check, but Pick Time's making most of that money, which, it kind of brings up the question of, have you tried to outsource sales for your studio? Have you tried to hire somebody to do sales? I mean, and not saying, hey, you as a male sitting down in the room and selling it always, it's kind of a different experience. Whereas you have, maybe a woman or somebody that kind of lends a little bit more towards the brides and those kind of clients. I'm just kind of curious if that's something that you've looked into or struggled with, as an entrepreneur, as a photographer.
Sure. Yeah. I think right now it is me that's doing it. I think down the line, I would love to have someone that could really focus on more of those sales meetings, and I could be a little more hands off on that. So that's the goal for down the road. I do see some benefits to that, from the male versus female perspective, but also kind of, taking the kind of artist per se out of it and having someone focused on it. I mean, yeah, because, there's scenarios where, I go into a sales session and maybe I have one photo that I just love, and I think it is the standout image by far, the shot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe the client doesn't agree with that. And then, I kind of am in my feelings. Oh, I thought this was the image, and maybe they don't like it. It's nice to have that separation, I think, in certain scenarios where, it doesn't have to be the photographer, the artist as the one selling it. So I think down the line, that's definitely a goal for me. It's not where I'm at right now, but it's definitely something that I would love to pursue down the line.
Yeah. I mean, I think about, even as a business owner, co-business owner with my wife, as she's, kind of come in and she's, more on the album side and more client side. I've been kind of more sales and talking more, kind of at CEO business level and things like that. And I think about that kind of dynamic in those services and kind of dividing that labor where it makes sense and really putting somebody, in the right place. Like, if you're not a people person, you should not be a photographer, right? You're like, you have to, I mean, that's all part of the schmoozing and the rubbing elbows process. And it's no different than, like a true creative. And you kind of have that imposter syndrome of like, well, I'm the creative and I'm handing off all these creative tasks within my business. How do I retain that, the creative, the almighty, kind of in control of all of that? And I think all of those different aspects, the smartest thing you can do is, yes, focus on money, running your business, working on your business, but look at, are there other areas of your business that you can still have control over, but hand it off to somebody with a different, set of tools, set of skills, and that kind of stuff. I think as business owners as a whole, you always kind of have to look at, what are my skills? Where can I kind of build up a team? And as, somebody that's, been a manager and then gone to owner, the best managers tend to have people that move upward, up and out. And that, is kind of that thing of being like, man, I'm losing my best person. But I've helped, kind of raise them at a, higher level than, what they are. And so you're always like, man, I wish I could have 10 of that person, but they, they tend to get poached and pulled out. And so it's always kind of a good measure of a business. And, whether you have employees or you're looking for staff, kind of back to what you mentioned, I think service, being a student of service as business owners is something we have to do. I mean, you can buy a fridge and it can, break within the first month. You're calling the company you bought it from. What's that service look like? Well, I'm not going to go buy any more tools or appliances from them. Or maybe even to the camera store you're dealing with. Like Canon's camera is going to have a problem. Products are going to break. But it's the humans between that to solve those problems and to make things right. That's where you have to become like a student of that service. And I think your customers are going to look at that for you. Like, not necessarily sitting down in the room and haggling deals. Oh, I'm sitting with the owner, so I can say, hey man, do you have any coupons in that drawer where you can give me a deal? But they're going to, where they're a little bit upset about something. Oh, I don't like the way my face looks, or my eyes are closed in this image, or you want to present the best pictures. I'm not saying you're going to show bad images to them and have to create those kind of problems, but there's going to be something where you love an image and they just don't. And you have to kind of, adjust your process, remove your personal feelings from the room, and provide options to them, sell them solutions, right? Put images on their walls for them, make it easy to get them to the cash register. Don't drag out a 3 to 4 hour sales session. Well, could you imagine what this would look like on your wall? Could you imagine what an acrylic would look like? I don't have any here, but scale, like it just starts, it becomes very difficult for them to see that vision. So I think service is a massive part of it.
It's a massive part. It's a huge part, because ultimately if you provide a good service, it's going to come back to you and it's going to work out. But I think the photography industry, it really is about service. I think if you don't provide a good level of service, there's another 50 photographers they can call the next time.
Sure.
Service is everything.
And nothing says, pay me to show up to take pictures. Here are your digital pictures. That's right. You're out of my life. There's nothing worse in service, but like so common with like this digital file exchange, right?
Yep.
It's like, might as well just hand your memory cards off in real time. Hey, I shot in JPEG. Take this to Walgreens. You ready to print? It's the same concept. Just putting it on Pixieset and giving somebody a downloadable gallery is today's version of handing off a memory card with JPEGs and going to Walgreens. So last kind of question that I want to kind of jump into was, how were you able, when did you think about hiring a team, for editing, and how are you able to keep those costs down within your business? Like how do you offset that new expense? Because it's not easy bringing on editors and team and I'm saving time, I'm buying time, throw that out of it. Just talk to me a little bit about the financial preparation and that kind of process.
No, that's a great question. I think, when you're first getting started and the idea of outsourcing comes up, it seems like it's a daunting task and it seems like it's never going to be affordable. And at first, I probably thought that right at the beginning. But when you really dive into how much time you're saving by outsourcing these things and not having to work on it, and also on the other side of that, when you realize, how much money you're saving by essentially sharing, staff instead of having your own dedicated full-time staff, I'm sharing, in this case, Evolve, I'm sharing editors with many other photographers, and that's able to really bring that cost down for me to make it much more attainable. If I was hiring my own editor and they're, on staff with me full time, I would be paying 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much money. So the fact that you're able to share that labor with other photographers, I think that's a huge advantage. So yeah, I think at first, it's a daunting task of, oh, you're going to spend X amount per month. Oh, that's crazy. That's expensive. But when you really dig into the nitty gritty of it and you realize, okay, I'm able to offload this work, that means I'm able to get on to newer clients that much faster, and I'm able to pay that, in this sense, editing bill, but whatever outsourcing may be. But you're able to move on to other work so much faster because you're being so much more efficient. I know when I'm using a team like Evolve, I know I'm getting my work back routinely on time. I'm getting it back quickly, and I'm able to sell and move on to the next client quickly. And, that allows me to be able to not think twice about outsourcing because I know that money is getting paid back very quickly and very easily because of how optimized the system is and how optimized the flow is, because, we're always on time. It's X amount of days, I'm getting the photos back, X amount of days, I'm selling them, and then I'm off to the next client and off to the next job. So yeah, it's daunting at first, but once you kind of dig into it and really realize it's actually not that bad at all. It's you're saving a lot of money by offering a better service.
So to kind of summarize that, would you say the outsourcing solution would be you have the physical and mental capacity now to say, look, I can offset this cost by taking on a few extra events a year.
Yeah.
And now I've removed editing from my plate. So that's a nice mental checkbox, but also you have the ability to shoot as much as you want and scale the business. So it's offsetting the cost is easy. It's what do you want to do at that time? Like, do you want to watch? Are you watching Netflix? Or are you going to go out and make some money?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think ultimately, just like you said, you realize how easy it is to really offload work. I mean, as an artist, as a photographer, it's hard sometimes to think, oh, I'm going to kind of let go of some of these pieces. But once you do, you realize you're able to really provide a better quality and a better level of service to your clients at the end of the day. And, I have, clients on occasion, they're like, well, is it just you? Do you have a team? Without hesitation, I say, look, I have a team behind me that ensures that the work I'm providing to you is the best possible. And, I think having a team behind me is a huge advantage. So I view that as a big time advantage when I'm talking to clients about, how I do work, when they're going to expect their work, how that's all going to look. I view it as a huge advantage that, I do outsource and I have teams behind me that can make me look good ultimately.
Awesome. Yeah. I think like a turnkey team, like in every kind of, vendor is that weird kind of like cold, not personal term, but your vendors, right? You're going to have, you're going to have a partnership with the lab. You're going to have a partnership with the marketing team. You're going to have a partnership with, you name it. You have all your different entities. And so as you have that connection with all those teams, they all have that. It almost has to be software suite, a platform that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
that isn't always like bouncing around. So there has to be that automation and integration, all that fun stuff.
That's
so,
right.
No, man, I love hearing that and hearing a little bit about your story, and definitely why we wanted to, kind of feature you and kick things off for this month. And I want to thank you again for your time. We will we'll be online for the next feature of photographer this month. Again, this is Zach Dalin, and you guys can check out his work and reach out if you have any questions. Thank you so much, Zach.
Thank you.
Alrighty, take care.
Thanks.